want to thank everybody who's been with me, my Xbox clan.
When Kobe's going back to play Madison Square Garden, and he's like, hey, hook me up with dinner with Heath Ledger.
Like Russell Westbrook, that was a great feat the other day. I couldn't even tweet it out.
It's Coach Frank Vogel here, full of enthusiasm and positive energy.
Ask me what I like to play with Kevin Durant. Ask me about Kyrie Irving, Giannis. Ask me about Embiid, Ben Simmons. Go ahead, all of them.
There was a time when the Israelites were wandering in the desert and all of a sudden bread came down from heaven. That's kind of what today feels like to have KCP join.
Welcome back to Bulls vs. Blazers, episode 3. This is a free episode, so a little bit of business off the top. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bulls v. Blazers. Subscribe on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever else you get podcasts. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review. You can subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/Bulls v. Blazers for $3 a month. You get an extra episode every week.
Double the content.
Double the content, literally double the content. I'm Sean Highkin, with me as always, Erik Gundersen. Erik, I think we should do a vibe check. So how are your vibes right now?
My vibes are pretty good right now, honestly. It's really hot here in Oregon. Yeah. But my vibes are good, honestly. There's been hoops on the TV, which has been great. WNBA opening weekend was this week.
How much of that did you watch?
I watched quite a bit of it. I watched the first game all the way. I watched some of the second game, the Mercury and Sparks game, which was a blowout. Pretty much all the games except for the last couple. And then I was outside yesterday afternoon during like the back half of the Sunday game. So I didn't watch all the games, but I did watch some of the games. I watched Sabrina, obviously.
Yeah, you have to. And then I watched her on Saturday, and then I watched the Dallas game yesterday because of Satu, and she looked pretty good too. Yeah,
they're playing against each other on Wednesday.
I will definitely be watching that. Go Ducks.
Yes, definitely go Ducks. Also, there's not going to be, there should be all attention on the WNBA because there won't even be any scrimmages at that point.
Well, did you see that they just added 13 more games on ESPN?
Yeah, I'm sure the ratings were great because it was fun to watch. And as we saw now that there was the positive test with the Marlins, there's a really significant chance that baseball might not actually finish their season.
Well, you know what? It looks like the NBA bubble is in jeopardy. At least according to the takes on Twitter, because baseball not having their shit together at all and literally not having any plan for COVID is apparently a referendum on the sports, not just the NBA, but the MLS, the NHL, which seems like it has their stuff pretty locked down. Baseball and football not having any plans and basically pretending the virus doesn't exist actually means that all sports should be canceled.
Right. It means that every sport is actually doing a bad job and that every sport has to be canceled because of the ones that are fucking it up. Meanwhile, there hasn't been since the 13th, there haven't been any new positive COVID tests in the bubble.
We're knocking on wood because today's Monday, and so today's usually the day we get the update. But it seems like we haven't heard anything about guys not practicing. Like we've seen a couple of guys, Paul Millsap and Kristaps Porzingis, both missed a practice because they didn't show up for their tests, which I just how do you not show up for your test? That's literally your one job in the bubble.
Yeah, it's like that and go to practice.
Yeah, I just don't understand what that's about.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about, but it's that's not good. But obviously we have to do a big thank you to defend for the sanctity of the bubble. Thank you to Jack Harlow for posting this selfie, even though that probably no longer has him invited to anything with Lou Williams anymore. And we feel sorry.
Is he the D'Angelo Russell of rap now?
I think he might be. Who's gonna? No, the D'Angelo Russell of rap is Tekashi 6ix9ine. Actually, that's unfair to D'Angelo Russell to compare him to Tekashi.
Yeah, D'Angelo Russell has pretty much survived the Nick Young thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, D'Angelo. You shouldn't be compared to 6ix9ine. 6ix9ine is his own thing.
It is Jack Harlow. First of all,
yeah, and they're both from Louisville. I didn't know that.
I tweeted the meme of the handshake meme of both of them with snitching on somebody who on social media, and a bunch of people replied to me, hey, they're also both from Louisville. So I guess I just found that out. So help me out with this, Erik. I think you're a little bit more up on modern rap than I am.
Okay.
I've never heard Harlow before Saturday. Is his music actually any good?
I know that younger people like him. Like, I don't really like, he has bars, but like, I mean, like, a lot of people can rap, you know what I mean? Like, he can rap. And a lot, I know that Nasir Little on the Blazers is a big Jack Harlow fan. He was like at a Jack Harlow concert in Portland. So yeah, I mean, he's big with the kids. And that's basically all I know.
I'm generally skeptical of white rappers, except for like Paul Wall and the Beastie Boys and LP from Run the Jewels.
Right. I get it. I totally get it. But he seems like he's got a lot of bars, and hey, I mean,
Mac Miller, obviously.
Oh, of course. Well, Mac
R.I.P.
Miller. Yeah. R.I.P. Mac Miller. Of course, the legendary Jay-Z tweet, Mac Miller, nice too. But the Jack Harlow thing, he's like pretty popular, and he's got like some hits right now. I think he's got one hit that's like it's called What's Poppin', which is just hilarious because everyone is making the bubble is popping joke off of that. But yeah, I mean, he posted a photo on his Instagram story, which is how we all found out that Lou Williams was out at a club. They both had drinks in their hands and they both had masks on. And then he came through with the worst lie of all time, trying to pretend that it was an old photo and that he just missed hanging out with his guy, Lou Will, which like Lou Will and Jack Harlow aren't like, I mean, they were hanging out, but I don't think they're like hanging out.
Yeah. I mean, Lou Williams is like a lot older than Jack Harlow, right?
Yeah. Jack Harlow's like 21, I think.
Okay. I mean, like I can understand somebody like Nasir Little, who's like his same age, like being all, but like Lou Williams is way too old to be hanging out with like a 21-year-old white rapper.
Yeah, but I mean, so he's 22.
Okay.
Mr. Harlow. And Lou has been in the league for 15 years. As he pointed out to fucking Kendrick Perkins today.
Oh yeah, this was great.
Kendrick Perkins talking about how Zion was more mature than Lou Williams, which, okay, you know what? Zion also is not of drinking age. He can't even go to a bar. So like, that's automatically off the table for him. But anyway,
well, but to be, I mean, it is true that no underage person has ever drank alcohol in their entire life.
This is true, and of course, never at a bar.
No,
those are always on the up and up. But Lou says 15 years in this business, and the most dirt you have on my name is stopping to get hot wings during a pandemic. Perk, shut up and stop laughing and saying it's just TV when you run into me too, which. Obviously, there's a lot of players that get pissed about some of the shit that Perk says about them on TV. But I mean, Lou has a point.
Do you mean to tell me that Kendrick Perkins had a bad take here? Because I don't think I've ever heard that happen before.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, he is the king of the bad take. And it's like sometimes I just don't even understand what he's not helping the situation. Like, if he's like being like sometimes like a mouthpiece for LeBron. Like sometimes he just says some stupid shit that I don't think LeBron approves of either. Like,
I was at All-Star in Chicago a few months ago before the pandemic hit, and I was at lunch with a friend of mine. I'm not going to obviously reveal this person's identity, but I was with a friend of mine who works for ESPN and is like the nicest and most positive person that I have ever met in this business, and is like never going to like talk shit about anybody. Just as a general thing. And somehow the subject of Kendrick Perkins came up, and this person was like, man, Kendrick Perkins, he's like embarrassing for the company, and like or he should be fired. Like, and so I was just like, okay, wow, I guess there's the bar.
Yeah, I mean it's a bummer sometimes to watch him say some stupid shit sometimes, a lot of the time. I mean, most of the time he goes on TV, he says some stupid shit, and it's like and I have to say credit to Lou Williams. Like, there were a lot of people like going above and beyond and bending over backwards to try and defend him and his meal choices and how it was only chicken wings and he shouldn't have been punished. Like, he came out and he's like, respect, like, he's like, enjoy the memes, like, relax. Like, he fucked up and he knows it.
He took the L. I mean, he's also a guy, like, he's so self-aware that, like, he knows that, like, his whole situation with his two girlfriends has, like, gone public and everybody was making fun of it, and he was just like, okay, cool, whatever.
The song, he had the 6-man song from Drake, like, 6 years ago now when it dropped. Like, you know, he has an entire song about him, you know, two girls and they get along like Lou Will. Like, he's a legend. And so, like, this is only making his legend grow, honestly, but it is also a fuck up, and the NBA is taking it seriously and doing exactly what they should do. And, like, I think it's fair to question if they would have done anything different if Jack Harlow doesn't post that photo, but he did.
Well, how about this? Here's a question for you. Let's say that Jack Harlow posts a photo with somebody his own age who was out of the bubble recently, Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
Would the NBA make Zion quarantine for 10 days and miss the national TV opener?
Well, I think they'd have to, but...
I mean, they would, but
yeah.
like, they can do it because it's Lou Williams, and it's like, okay, the Clippers will be okay without Lou Williams for a couple of games.
Right, exactly. And and also like their seed is pretty much wrapped up. Like they have like a 3-game lead on the Nuggets. So they're not gonna lose their spot. So it's ultimately it's fine. The Lou Williams situation was great for the jokes. I mean, this just goes back to, I mean, we were talking about this and a lot of people have been talking about this, is they should have just had a bubble strip club and had some bubble approved sex workers, like in the movie Head of State when they had politician approved sex workers for their respective candidates in the movie.
Well, if the league wants to really show that they're the progressive league, that's kind of the way to do it. That's a progressive cause, destigmatizing sex work.
Yeah, I mean, it could. I think it could.
It's a legitimate line of work. It should not be stigmatized the way it is.
No, it shouldn't be. They had an opportunity to do something and be the progressive league, but again, they pump faked on taking that next step. Also, we found out Rashawn wings have been the thing that break the bubble.
Is that what Rashawn Holmes was getting?
Rashawn Holmes was getting wings as well. So that is the official kryptonite so far of the bubble is chicken wings. So can we get Tillman Fertitta to invest in a chicken wing company or like maybe buy a couple Wingstop franchises so that they can get it brought into the bubble so it's bubble approved? Because it seems like that's the only way they're going to get food from outside of the bubble is if it's Tillman Fertitta, because there were rumors that there were going to be like black-owned businesses and other local businesses involved in delivering food, but we really haven't heard anything about that. And it's like, where's that? Like, it seems like Tillman Fertitta is the only approved food in the bubble, so they got to get Tillman Fertitta chicken wings in there somehow.
Do they not have those at the Del Frisco Steakhouse or like the Joe's Crab Shack or any of the approved ones? Like, do those places not have wings on the menu?
You know what? If they don't, they should, because like it's also like the cheapest. They're like the cheapest thing you can buy. You know, like some of the cheapest meat that you can buy are wings. There's a reason why pretty much every bar serves them, and it's like, I mean, they got to do something. They got to get a wing chef. A Buffalo Wild Wings. Maybe they don't want to bring Buffalo Wild Wings in there, though, because they'll mess with the sports. Yeah,
they'll like send every game to overtime or something.
Yeah, that's probably why they want to box out Buffalo Wild Wings.
I was blown away by the amount of people who were going above and beyond to say, well, but you don't understand. These Magic City wings are so good, they're worth breaking quarantine. It's like, okay, maybe they were, but you can get them delivered or you can get them carry out. I don't know Magic City's whole situation with whether they offer delivery, but Lou Williams has enough money. He could probably have gotten somebody to deliver some Magic City wings for him so that he wouldn't have to.
He also has a flavor of wings called the Lou Will wings.
He does, which I'm sure are very good.
Yeah, they're lemon pepper barbecue mix.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
And sure, maybe he wanted to taste them, but you can't tell me that he couldn't have gotten someone in his family to go pick it up. Someone like
Postmates doesn't go to Magic City.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it obviously it's just like we don't need to have the burden. Like no one needs to prove to us that you've been to Magic City before. Like congrats that you've been there and had the wings and it's good.
Reading Playboy for the article's defense.
Yeah, it's like it's also like we all know that wings are like very famous there. It's like, but it's not a reason to like go and if you're gonna go, like, man, like especially if you're Jack Harlow, like, I mean, I'm happy he did it for the sanctity of the bubble, but if you're in Magic City with someone like Lou Williams and that's a major fumble right there, man. Like you could have been in with Lou and you fucked it all up for the clout.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get that. Like, it was easy to make some jokes just because we know what Lou Williams is about, and it was like, oh, of course he went to a strip club. Okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt that he actually was just going there for the wings, which is entirely possible because Lou Williams has such a history of loving wings at Magic City that he literally has his own flavor. I haven't gone to a sit-down restaurant to actually go sit. I mean, I've gone to a few different places to pick up carry-out, but I haven't actually sat down to eat in a restaurant since March, and I'm not going to until there's a vaccine. And I don't have the sanctity of a bubble for a multi-billion-dollar business hinging on whether I can keep myself safe.
Right. And also this kind of gets back to like what the NBA would be doing if they didn't have this bubble. Like, guys would be going about their lives and playing in pickup games and going to bars and exposing themselves to a lot more people than they would be that are potentially having the coronavirus.
We already saw what happened when the Nuggets, like half the Nuggets team went to some party where there was not socially distanced. Pictures of it came out on somebody's Instagram story. And then like 3 days later, like half the team didn't go to Orlando because they were all tested positive.
Yeah, and obviously they were, going with the player privacy angle, but it didn't take that. It wasn't like they were an excused atmosphere. They just weren't there. And so if you're going to have this thing, they got to have rules. And as we saw, like with like the MLB's rules are basically like, do the players feel like they want to play or not? And it's like, that's not a rule. Like, so I know that the sanctity of the bubble depended on Jack Harlow leaking this photo, but they know it now. And it's like, what do you want them to do with the information that's given to them? And I felt like they handled it the best way they could.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing is ridiculous just because look, Lou Williams goes out, he comes back. And I mean, I will just say, I have noticed a lot of the same people who were basically spending months railing on the NBA for even attempting the bubble are the ones who are now defending Lou Williams for putting the whole thing at risk.
Right, exactly. It's like, well, he he shouldn't even be in well, no, but he is in that position, and he's also like,
he could have opted out. He was one of the ones that came out and said, "Look, I'm concerned about this is going to take away from the social justice." Like what's?
No, yeah, and he was also one of the ones that was critiquing the bubble and like the rules that they have that they can play and then they have to be socially distanced off the court. And he didn't, and that's kind of the same thing that Dwight Howard has been doing with the mask thing. Like, he's like, yeah, well, why do I have to wear a mask if we all are getting tested? And it's like, well, that's not the point. It's like, everyone's supposed to be following these rules that everyone has agreed upon to make it as safe as possible. And it's like, now that they are doing the things to make it as safe as possible, the NBA is bad and the bubble's in jeopardy. Like, I mean, it's a little scary that obviously what happened and what would have happened if Jack Harlow didn't say anything, but to defend Lou Williams for going and getting the wings is like not the move either.
I mean, it's just kind of like players can do no wrong and under any circumstances. It's just kind of the prevailing attitude, which, I mean, we're both pretty pro player in terms of we believe that players should have the ability to decide where they play and should have, and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, also, you're messing this up for everybody if you're not following the rules. Like, come on.
I mean, Carmelo Anthony said it, like, it's not just like the NBA. It's like the future of sports is like in large part hinging on how the NBA handles this. And I get the frustration that they're using up a lot of testing resources. I get that, but that fight is not the NBA's to pick up because they are not the state or federal government.
No, it's not. And it's not the NBA's fault that the government, I mean, they could give everybody the same testing resources if they wanted to, but they're not because they can't figure out a way to charge people.
Right. And so they are trying to figure it out, or they haven't really tried to figure it out. Let's be real. The government has not tried to figure out shit when it comes to coronavirus.
The president literally said he wants to test less so that the numbers are lower.
Well, yeah, and the CDC isn't even monitoring the numbers anymore.
Because the CDC is not allowed to have the numbers, because now they have to send them directly to the government, which that now any numbers that come out are going to be basically rigged in order to make it look good so that Trump can get his poll numbers up.
Right. And I think, to me, it comes back to this really uniquely American notion that businesses are supposed to be more than that. And, decades and decades and decades of marketing to be like from businesses and even, the NBA itself, NBA cares, everything like that. Like, these leagues are bigger than what, their actual dollars and cents business is. But that's not true. Like, you go to any other country and you're like, oh, you're going to play sports because that's their business. Like, no one confuses them for a government agency or someone who is supposed to be doing like public health advocacy, even though they have like been like, wear your mask, get tested. Like all these things are proving science right, what the NBA is doing, but that's not their primary function. And it's like I don't understand why we keep asking this of sports leagues to do, and corporations in general. They are not government agencies, and we should not be asking them or holding them up to be responsible for anything like this, because they are not equipped to do it.
This is why I hated that Adam said on his last conference call that he feels the NBA has a moral obligation to come back to bring people together. And it's like, no, you're doing this for the money, and it's fine that you're doing this for the money, but be honest about it.
I know. Just the whole thing about it being a thing about bringing people together, it's bullshit. Like, you are a business. I said this a couple weeks or like a month ago when the NBA, when it looked like they were gonna come back, like every fucking sports league, I'm sorry to break it to you, is closer to the UFC than you want them to be. It is a blood sport for money. And the NBA is doing a much better job at protecting their players than the UFC is. But I'm not saying that it's like still ultimately like this like thing that is for the greater good, because it's not. It's for their business. And it's like
the NBA is extremely neo.
Yeah, it's the neoliberal basketball association. That's what it is.
Like, yes, the NBA is the most progressive sports league in America, but that's only because their competition is the NFL and Major League Baseball.
And the UFC. Like the UFC never fucking stopped. And it's like that shit gets in crazy ratings on pay-per-views and shit like that. And it's like that's still going on, but they're not pretending that they're anything more.
They had fighters test positive on a match day and still went on with it.
Yeah, and they had like a couple weeks ago they had a fight where a guy got tested positive and they like flew somebody in from America to the fight island to fight like on a week's notice. Like obviously that's not like ideal, but they also aren't like dressing it up as they're anything else than a sports league. And like it may not be as bloodletting in the NBA, but the same shit applies. Like they put bodies at risk for profit. That is what they have. That is their entire business model. And that's what it's always been. And so like, I just, the faux moralizing is just so uniquely American to assume that a sports league is more than a sports league. And like the marketing has worked because it's worked on all those people that are begging for sports to have some kind of moral obligation to do something that the government is not doing.
I mean, the whole point has been that it is probably dangerous for sports to come back, but that if you're going to do it, you have to take the kind of precautions that the NBA, and to their credit, the NHL also seems to have their stuff.
And the
WNBA and the MLS, the NWSL, they all seem like they have their stuff pretty well thought out. Like, if you're going to do it, you have to at least take the precautions. And the NBA put together a comprehensive plan in order to do it. Whereas the NFL and baseball are just like, we're just going to pretend this doesn't apply to us.
Right. And that's not good. But yeah, listen, I get like I said, we talked about the testing and the moral implications of that. But again, it's like, that is a fundamental problem with the healthcare system in America. Like not a fight that the NBA has a duty to pick up. Like it just doesn't. And if you think that, then the NBA's marketing has worked very well on you, because that's all it's been. And so I think it's time for a vibe check, though.
Yeah, we need to do a vibe check. We did a vibe check on our first episode last week. We need to kind of circle back, update some vibes, because there have been some updates on the vibes for a lot of these teams. Now that we've actually seen some of them play, we've seen the scrimmages, we've seen how different guys look. Yeah.
I mean, the Clippers, we already talked about the Clippers. I feel like their vibes aren't very good. I mean, they did get a couple guys back. They got Zubats back. They got Landry Shamet back in the bubble. And it sounds like Patrick Beverley, as of yesterday, was back in the bubble. And he's quarantining. But obviously, they're not going to have Lou Will for their first game.
The Joakim Noah vibes are extremely good.
That is balancing that's balancing out the low vibes. The high vibrations, the good vibrations from Joakim Noah, continuing to
he looks good.
be a joy. Yeah, no, he does look good, and they haven't had a lot of size all year. Like it's kind of a good thing that they haven't had Zubats and Harrell, so that they can really get him more run, because he hasn't played the whole year basically, or he didn't play it the entire year. So to have him looking good is important.
I covered the Bulls for 4 years, and 3 of those years Joe was on the team, and he is like just genuinely one of my favorite guys in the league. He's such a good dude, and he's such a he's such a fun guy to talk to and a fun guy to be around. And so given the way the last few years have gone for him with everything that happened in New York, and he was actually pretty good in Memphis last year, but then he was trying to get on with a contender this summer and had an Achilles injury and came back. Like, it just makes me so happy to see him back and contributing and still able to play, because he's such a good guy and I want good things for him.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to have Joe Noah back in the league. Lakers vibes, they've started calling Dion Waiters bubble cheese, which is a type of weed.
Yes.
So the vibes were low after Dwight became an anti-vaxxer, but I feel like the Lakers vibes are back on the way up.
They're stabilizing.
Yeah, shout out to bubble cheese. They're also saying anytime Dion pulls up from 3, the Lakers bench is yelling, "Say cheese." So Waiters joining the cast of the Real Lakers of Los Angeles is really adding some more vibes. And also I just feel like the Lakers, their bench celebrations are pretty good. Their chemistry could be a real big asset, I think, in this bubble where there's no crowd noise and teams are really going to have to self-motivate.
I'm still concerned they're going to miss playoff Rondo when it really comes down to it, though.
True. No, that is major. And I think, if they play Portland, that could be a real problem.
Portland's vibes are really good right now.
Yeah, we're going to jump all the way down the standings for Portland's vibes. Yeah, I mean, I love NurkSide.
It's working. I'm just saying there have been times where teams won the championship with 2 bigs playing like that. Even in the modern era, the Lakers had Andrew Bynum and Pau Gasol.
I mean, the Raptors last year with Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka, like they played 2 7-footers a lot.
Who's to say that Hassan Whiteside and Yusuf Nurkic can't also win a championship?
Who's to say? And I thought Nurkic was also like, his ball movement is so welcome to the eyes of having to watch that Blazer team all year with no ball movement at all. And just like to have Nurk there to be a ball reversal guy, to do a dribble handoff to set good screens. It's fun to watch him. I'm liking the Blazers vibes.
You actually made an interesting point in your Blazers newsletter that went out this morning, which, by the way, blazerbanter.substack.com. You guys should all subscribe to Eric's newsletter if you're interested in the Blazers. But a point that you made that was interesting was that the Nuggets tried to run this kind of similar 2-center lineup with him and Jokic back when he was in Denver. And part of why it didn't work is because Jokic's skill set, obviously Jokic is a much better player than Nurkic, but their skill sets in terms of like how much they pass and all that kind of stuff are pretty redundant to each other. And so putting Nurk with somebody like Whiteside, who is a rim runner and a shot blocker and is basically the opposite kind of center from Nurkic, like it actually complements each other pretty well, at least through these 2 exhibition games, which mean nothing. So it could be a disaster once the games start. But so far, like, their early returns look a lot better than I thought they would.
Well, yeah, and I think it's obviously like I said also in the newsletter, like I get the skepticism, like the 2, like it's because
one of the guys involved is Hassan Whiteside.
Of course. And like, but another thing, about Whiteside and like playing with 2 bigs, like when he was really good in Miami that year that they went pretty far in the playoffs, he was their only big man, but the vision of that team was not to be like that. Their vision was to have him and Chris Bosh on the court together, and they couldn't do it because of Bosch's unfortunate blood clot issue. But like the idea of having Whiteside with a guy who's a more of an adept passer, maybe a better helper, instead of the shot blocker, rim runner, incredible finisher that he is, like I think that that's the biggest reason why I think it was intriguing to me and why Terry Stotts is doing it. And also, I mean, the Blazers bench, I mean, is not, it's not good. It's a bunch of young guys, and they're, Whiteside, even though he has his detractors, is still better than most of the guys on the Blazer bench. And I get why they're having Collins come off the bench because, I think does a lot of little things that can help those second units a little bit more than Whiteside does the little things, because Whiteside is always doing like the big things, the big stats that are really noticeable on a box score. But I liked it against Toronto. I didn't think it looked bad.
Zach Collins is back too. He looks all right.
Yeah, he does. One thing I will say, I mean, Portland's 3-point defense in the first 2 games has not been very good, but
that's been an issue for them the whole year. So
yeah. So we'll see if that works out against them. I mean, there are good news for them, I guess, is that their first game is against Memphis. There's not a really good 3-point shooting team.
The Memphis vibes are not. I mean, I think they're kind of neutral right now.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't look very good in their scrimmage, which again, it doesn't matter. They got their asses kicked by Philadelphia.
Philly vibes are pretty good right now, by the way.
Yeah, Ben Simmons at the 4 is kind of like, I don't want to. It's bringing back a little bit of a memory of when the Warriors started playing Draymond Green at the 5. Like, I'm getting like this, like a revolutionary thing has happened with this team that could change them and the whole league.
You saw the reason why. I mean, the reason why the vibes are good is because Brett Brown said that Ben Simmons had a spiritual awakening and now is willing to shoot threes.
I love it.
So the spiritual vibes are strong.
Shout out to Rich Paul for getting him to a shaman, to make sure that he had that philosophical shift,
By the way, Rich Paul appointed this morning to the board of directors at UTA, so Clutch making big moves.
Again, yeah. Just it seems like they just continue to make big moves, and sometimes you just don't even know. But
they got Trae Young now on board, and now they got the UTA board of directors seat.
And they have Anthony Edwards, one of the guaranteed top 5 picks in this draft, probably. So the life is good for Clutch Sports. Did we talked about Denver on the last pod?
I think the Bull vibes are pretty good.
Yeah, I like Bull. The Bull stuff is awesome.
Again, go Ducks. Going back to the Sabrina Satu stuff, go Ducks.
Yeah, go Ducks.
We're always rooting for any Ducks to be successful in the NBA.
Yeah, so definitely that. Oh, speaking of Ducks, I think Toronto also has some great vibes.
Oh yeah, Chris Boucher.
Yeah, Chris Boucher telling Draymond Green that racism is not only an American thing.
Which, by the way, what is Draymond doing? Like Draymond should be smarter than that.
I don't know.
I've always thought Draymond's a pretty smart guy, so for him to say something like that, you're just like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, it's like, hey man, like I don't know what point, like I don't know if he's still pissed about the finals from last year.
Yeah.
And the fact that they rolled up there with the championship trophy on the back, but like there's nothing wrong. And also Toronto has the blackest staff in the NBA. Like they have the most black staffers of any team. Like if anybody has a claim to be talking about Black Lives Matter, it's Toronto above all else. Just because they play in Canada does not make them less black.
And also, even though Toronto is one of the most international teams in the league, whether it, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, a couple of other guys, you think Kyle Lowry isn't affected by racism against black men in America, or Norm Powell, or like these other guys on the team who are black? Fred VanVleet.
Or Kyle Lowry being like manhandled by a Warriors minority owner.
Yeah.
On the sideline, and because
whoa, Erik, he's an investor. He's not a minority owner. He's an investor.
Sorry, minority investor, minority governor.
Yes.
Whatever. Anyway, yeah, the Draymond thing, that was wild. Like, I don't think like he really thought that through, and like Masai Ujiri also said some stuff about it, but Chris Boucher being like, hey man, like Chris Boucher is from Canada, he is black, and it's like he deals with racism in Canada too. So it's like it's not just because it's not just an American thing. And so for Draymond to come at the Raptors like that was really weird. It's a good thing that the Warriors aren't in the bubble,
because their vibes would be bad.
The Warriors vibes. Oh yeah. Also, Steph Curry using the slights against him to refer to other WNBA players as system players. Like,
that's
what?
Some SME right there from Steph.
Yeah, dude. It's like, bro, no one who actually matters thinks you're a system player. Everyone knows you're one of the greatest players that has ever played. And when you're healthy, you're one of the best players in the league. And like to be like, oh yeah, WNBA. Like I said this on Twitter. Can you imagine if like LeBron came out on a WNBA opening day and was like, let's go WNBA. Shout out to all my washed queens. Like
Diana Taurasi, washed queen.
Sue Bird, shout out to Sue Bird, my wash queen. Like,
Candace
what?
Parker, like here's the thing, like nobody was actually calling LeBron washed when he did the Wash King thing. Like maybe Skip Bayless was or whatever, but like nobody was actually saying like, yeah, LeBron isn't good anymore.
You can find any take if you want to find it. Like there were like he's washed, but like it wasn't like a serious take that anybody that is actually trying to be taken seriously was saying. Like
there's this great tweet by, do you follow Kill a Cow?
No.
This dude from Philly that I follow who's really funny. He has a lot of tweets making fun of like Bill Simmons and The Ringer and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So I enjoy his tweets a lot. But he had this tweet like a year ago that's like one of my favorite tweets of all time, where he basically said like, people will be on Twitter making arguments that don't exist. Like, yeah, but I was told Steph Curry wasn't a good shooter. And then and then Steph Curry did I was told Steph Curry wasn't a good shooter himself.
Oh, I know. Well, it's like those memes. It's like there would be like, man, and people say LeBron can't pass. Like, it's like, what? Like nobody ever said that shit. It's like one of his greatest skills. He might be the greatest passer to ever live. Like, what?
There's this YouTube compilation. It's from like 10 years ago. I think it came out when he was still in Miami, so it's like way out of date. But one of my favorite videos of all time, I don't know if you've seen this, but just go on YouTube and search LeBron James, The Art of Passing. And it's just a 10-minute highlight mixtape of LeBron that's only his passes. And it's like one of the most incredible things I've ever watched.
Yeah, it's a great YouTube video. I love watching LeBron passing compilations. I just, yeah, the Golden State is definitely mad that they're not there. I'm just going to say that.
Steve Kerr's not, because Steve Kerr was talking about how he didn't want them to be there, and he's basically talked very begrudgingly about the zombie summer league bubble in Chicago that might happen. But the players,
Yeah.
you think Steph and Clay, like especially now that they're seeing all the stuff of like these guys are on TV again and they are having all this fun on social media. You think Steph and Clay and Draymond don't want to be there?
Yeah, they definitely do. Like, that's why they're in their feelings right now, like way more than I thought that they would be. Let's see. I want to talk about Phoenix. They have the best vibes of any of the bad teams. Like,
how so?
Washington, Orlando, they've been playing good basketball in these scrimmages, and I just like they're getting Aaron Baines back into the bubble. It seems like he's recovered from the coronavirus.
Noted Blazer killer Aaron Baines.
I mean, Booker is going to thrive in this environment. Like, it's going to be very loose, and I think Ayton is going to be a problem for teams. I mean,
steam face emoji.
Yeah, steam face emoji. But like, that's kind of, they don't have a ton of great players, but I think they could be fun, and they can at least score some points. And I'm excited to see them play, actually, because they have no chance to make the playoffs, but I think they could be fun.
Yeah, I mean, Pelicans vibe checked pretty good now that Zion's going to be back in time for opening night. He got the 2-day shipping from Amazon Prime instead of the normal shipping.
Yeah, yeah, he got the expedited 4-day quarantine.
Yeah,
I think he arrived on Saturday. So I think they're doing good. I will say JJ Redick's very vanilla statement on his shoe on the Goldman Sachs sixes, be the change, is a very neutral vibe. It's a very neutral.
It's not
vibe.
even be the change. It was ready for change.
Oh, ready for change. God. Okay.
By the way, speaking of Goldman Sachs, did you see that the CEO of Goldman Sachs did a DJ set opening for the Chainsmokers at the Hamptons this morning or last night?
Oh my God.
Did you see that
I did. No, I didn't see that the CEO of Goldman Sachs actually did a DJ set.
His name is David Solomon, and his DJ name is DJ D-Sol. So the JD and the straight shot of like finance executives.
Wow, that's a deep cut for all of you who know the JD and the Straight Shot. Shout out to James.
If you're listening to this podcast, you probably know about JD and the Straight Shot. Let's be honest.
That's a good point.
I actually got a JD and the Straight Shot album on vinyl.
Oh my God, yeah, I forgot about that.
Our friend Derek James, who by the way just moved to Portland, we're gonna have to probably do like a socially distanced like get together with him at some point because he and his fiance just moved to Portland. But he lived in Minneapolis before this, and one time in like January he was at a record store back when you could still go to stores. And he texted me like, "Hey, I saw this JD and the Straight Shot record," and I was just like, "You should get that for me. I will Venmo you like whatever it costs." And it was like $10 or something. And so now I own a JD and the Straight Shot album on vinyl.
That's phenomenal. Dallas, bad vibes. The Kristaps skipping the test thing, not good. You don't want your best player skipping a test for really no reason at all.
Luka's looked pretty good in the scrimmages, though.
Yes. That is, I mean, I think Luka is going to be a guy who's going to be dangerous. I mean, I would not want to play him in a series, even though it's his first series. Houston seems to be getting their vibes back. Westbrook was practicing. Harden is there. He's not wearing a Blue Lives Matter mask anymore. Although, also Young Thug better at lying than Jack Harlow.
Yeah. I mean, I much more believe that that James Harden doesn't have the internet than I do that Jack Harlow was posting an old photo of him and Lou Williams, even though Lou Williams was wearing the NBA issued mask from the bubble in the photo. One thing I want to say about Houston, D'Antoni had an awesome quote last night that
he did.
I think really improves the vibes, which is that somebody asked him why Daniel House isn't in the starting lineup anymore, and he said, "Well, because those other 5 guys are better than him." Which Mike's a legend. Mike is one of my favorite coaches in the league. He also confirmed donated money to Bernie's campaign in 2016.
Yeah,
so we're big Mike D'Antoni fans over here.
We stand harder than ever before for Mike D'Antoni.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oklahoma City.
They're fine.
Fine vibes. Let's go to the East. We talked about Toronto's vibes being good. Milwaukee, Giannis looks amazing.
Did you see the video of Rachel Nichols playing cards with the Antetokounmpo brothers, and Giannis did a whole impression of her during the during the game? It was for some ABC interview. I only saw
during of her being during the jump or something.
Yeah, it was for something, but it's a good video. Giannis's comedic skills are underrated.
I have to check that out. I haven't seen that video yet.
It's pretty good, so I would recommend watching that. But I'm big on the Bucks right now. I think like I said in the last episode, I think people are kind of eager to write the Bucks off because they want them to lose so Giannis can go to a bigger market. But the Bucks are going to be really good.
Yeah, I mean, and they got Bledsoe back. He's back in practice after he dealt with COVID, and Pat Connaughton I think is also recovering from COVID. So. Yeah, it seems like they're closer to full strength now, and Giannis again, and also I think the Lopez brothers' energy in Disney, is underrated.
Maybe nobody has home court advantage in the bubble, but the Lopez twins are kind of bringing some home court advantage to the Bucks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they feel at home watching the Disney in resort channel. They love it. So I'm all
Robin's
about that.
out all getting in Twitter fights with people about how he thinks Lilo and Stitch is an underrated classic, and other people are going at him for it, and he's getting into big long Twitter threads about it. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you got to spend your time somehow. I hope we do get some. I hope they do have some after hours, sessions inside the theme park if they can. But that might be a little too sketchy with the coronavirus in Orlando outside of the bubble. I don't really there's nothing changed about Miami. They did get Bam Adebayo back and Kendrick Nunn back, who are both important players for them.
Yeah.
But really no vibe changes.
Vibes are still good for them.
Yeah, they're still good, especially now that they have Bam, they're even better.
Yeah.
But because Bam is really, they are the potential upset of Milwaukee other than Toronto.
Well, Bam is such a good defender, and Bam is a good defender in the way where he can guard Giannis on the perimeter and he can guard Giannis at the rim. He's one of it's him and Kawhi are the only 2 guys in the league who can actually guard Giannis.
Right. And
LeBron, if LeBron is actually locked in.
Yeah, and LeBron did, people, I will say this. I know it was the All-Star game, but the fourth quarter of the All-Star game, people were trying hard, and LeBron locked up Giannis in the fourth quarter of that game. And then also in the fourth quarter of the last game when it was Milwaukee Lakers, a long time ago, LeBron did a really good job on Giannis because Giannis's game a lot of times is just trying to barrel right through you with his strength. And he can do that a lot. But, when he comes up against someone who's as strong as him, it's not as easy. But, Giannis has a bag at his 3-point shot in some of the practice games. Or not practices have looked good, but I'll wait to see him hit more off the dribble threes in real games before I start to believe in
Ben
it.
Simmons has also hit a bunch of threes in practice.
Yeah, that's true. And he hit a corner three in that game. So, I mean, he's going to try. I mean, he has to. I mean, that's part of – if you're going to play that position in the league now, I mean, we saw it even with Nurkic yesterday in the NurkSide lineup. Like, you got to shoot. Like, you have to be willing to shoot at the 4 and pretty much at every position now. You have to be a threat to score if you're going to be out there. Another guy, Oklahoma City, threat to score. I can't believe I forgot this. Andre Roberson.
Post-prime Andre Roberson is a bucket.
Post-prime, yeah. He was not a bucket, but he is now. And he hit some clutch threes in the game, the OKC scrimmage the other day. Obviously, again, the scrimmage, but it has to mean a lot for him.
If he can shoot and he's half the defender he was before he got injured, like that's a pretty big piece for them to add back.
Oklahoma City would be a problem, if you will. Because then you have, like, let's say it's Oklahoma City against the Clippers or something in round 2. And you have another guy to throw at Kawhi and PG. And if he can hit shots, then you can't just play off of him. So I think, yeah, that's an intriguing roster is Oklahoma City right now. Obviously, I think Portland has really gotten – weirdly, Portland has gotten all of the buzz as, like, the sleeper team. But Oklahoma City is right there. And they have, Chris Paul, maybe the best clutch player in the league. Still.
I just want to take credit for – I don't usually like to take credit for predictions because I get a lot of predictions wrong and predictions are stupid. But I just want to take credit for one thing, which is that after Oklahoma City had the summer they did, where they traded away Paul George and Russell Westbrook, I was pretty much one of the only people saying, hey, they could still be a playoff team because they have like Chris Paul, Steven Adams, Gallinari, Shea. Like that's a whole bunch of competent NBA players they have. I was saying, hey, I think those guys are all going to be good. And like Billy Donovan at this point, we can say is a good coach. Like, and they are one of the more under the radar good teams in the league the whole year. And I think they're a team that I think just because all of their guys, Chris Paul obviously is, one of the best leaders still in the NBA and just one of the most competent point guards. And Steven Adams is a really solid guy, and Gallinari, like they have all these guys. Like they're one of the teams that I think is going to be the most equipped for this because these are all guys that have like been there before and just can and are just going to be really steady and are just consistent. They know what they are and they play well and they're well coached. Like I think they're a team when there's so much up in the air, they're in this weird chaotic environment where this is the kind of situation where a weird team that you wouldn't expect could go farther in the playoffs than you'd expect. I would not be surprised if we saw like Oklahoma City in the conference finals randomly.
Yeah, no, I mean, they could be like kind of like Portland was last year where you just like they make it to the conference finals and no one really expects it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's definitely possible.
Who has really good vibes?
Who?
Orlando, because Jonathan Isaac is coming back.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that. I saw Fultz. I saw Fultz has cleared the bubble and he's allowed to play.
Yeah, he's playing, and Jonathan Isaac. I think it was Josh Robbins at The Athletic reported yesterday that Fultz is going to play. Fultz is going to play, but Jonathan Isaac, who's been out since the beginning of January, is back. He's healthy. He's going to play. I don't know if he's going to play in their actual games, but he's going to play in their next scrimmage, so that's fun.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. It's fun. Jonathan Isaac's a really fun player, a great defender, and gives them a lot more size. I mean, obviously, I don't think they're going to beat Milwaukee or Toronto if they get matched up with them, but having more good defenders gives them at least more firepower to potentially take a game or two. But listen, I know we're not the biggest fans of the Celtics here, but their team, the Kemba Walker stuff is the most concerning stuff. I mean, but the rest of their team, I mean, they're a team that has played together for a long time for the most part. Like, I would not count them out either because like having the continuity, I think, and is another reason why I think Portland could be good because all their core guys have played together for a long time now. Teams that have played together for a while, I think could be very strong in this. And I think Boston is one of those that, they play good defense. They have good size on the wings. And the only thing that is concerning though is Kemba's knee.
I'm still really worried about Kemba.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like it's any better.
No, I'm worried he might be done. I hope he's not, but especially with your guy that small, you have, like, if your knees start to go, I don't have a great feeling about it.
Yeah, your separation is what gets you, and it's like if you can't get that separation anymore, that's a concern. And yeah, he's been one of the most fun players in the league, a great creator of his own shot. But yeah, it's a little bit concerning, and he already wasn't that great of a defender, so you worry about how effective he can be, especially in a playoff scenario. And he's also Kemba Walker has been to the playoffs like once. Or has he never been to the playoffs? I'm pretty sure he's never been to the playoffs.
Twice. Charlotte's made it twice.
Okay.
They lost in the first round both times, but
yeah. Well, I feel like the vibes have been checked.
Yeah, the vibes have been checked. We need to talk about one more big story, one that's very important to me.
Okay.
THIBS is back.
Oh, that's right. Tom Thibodeau is the coach of the New York Knicks. Not officially yet, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Woj reported it, and Woj is CAA mafia, so,
Yeah, so CAA reporting on CAA.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty safe to say that that's what's going to happen. So, yeah, I think it's a good hire.
I think it's better than some of the other things that were thrown out there as possibilities in the last few days before this became finalized.
Yeah, the Jason Kidd rumors.
Which, by the way, I also just want to say something. Like, I tweeted something to the effect of basically, THIBS has his flaws, but anything that isn't Jason Kidd or Mark Jackson is a win for the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
I got some pushback on that because I guess people think that thinking those two guys shouldn't be hired as head coaches means you think that there shouldn't be black coaches in the NBA. So I just want to remind people that Jason Kidd is a convicted domestic abuser who has also completely, caused chaos and tried to power his way into more power in the organization everywhere that he's gone. And that Mark Jackson literally tried to turn the entire team on Festus Ezeli when he was the coach of the Warriors, basically just to motivate the rest of them, and basically made Festus Ezeli cry because he did that. And also just literally every single person in the Warriors organization hated him.
Well, yeah, he festered a completely toxic working environment where one of the assistant coaches felt like he had to record all of his conversation.
And then that guy has gotten 2 jobs since then, because you would think that this guy was secretly taping the head coach and he got fired. He's never going to get another job again. But then when the Celtics and then the Pelicans interviewed him, they were just like, oh yeah, that sounds reasonable. There's a few other things also. It was reported at the time that somebody suggested Jason Collins as a possible signing for the Warriors, and Mark Jackson was like, oh yeah, not in my locker room.
Oh God, I totally forgot about that shit.
So there's that. And also just the fact that the Warriors won 51 games with him, which is pretty good, but then they fired him, brought in Kerr, kept the exact same roster, and immediately became the most dominant team in NBA history.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Jason Kidd. The Bucks had never gotten out of the first round with Kidd.
Yeah.
They fire him, they bring in Budenholzer, immediately the best team in the league 2 years in a row.
Yeah, it's just we can see it you also I can see the one thing I will say, Mark Jackson coached a good defense. That's it. Their offense was terrible. It was so predictable. You knew exactly what was coming every possession. It just was not a high level NBA offense.
They had the 2 best shooters in the history of the NBA, and their offense was 15th in the league.
Yeah. And it's you can get away with having a very vanilla offense when you have someone who's like LeBron or James Harden, who can literally be the system. But if you're not LeBron or James Harden, it's gonna be hard. And I know and what Kerr did was undeniably the right thing to do, because it made the Warriors into a champion.
Yeah, and so for me personally, if I had an NBA head coaching opening, those are just 2 guys I would not hire.
Right. And and I think it says something about the league that the guy who, like you said, the guy that was recording conversations has gotten multiple jobs in the league, and Mark Jackson has not. But good for the Knicks. Back to Tibbs, he has a winning record as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He always coaches a good defense for the most part, except for those Timberwolves teams, which we know why those guys didn't work out. There was just a bad mix of personalities there that didn't work out. And
even then, the Timberwolves, one of those years, the Timberwolves made the playoffs, which they hadn't done in 14 years. I think some of that was just because Jimmy Butler is so good. But, Tibbs has won everywhere he's gone. I mean, even with some of those Bulls teams, like obviously they had the best record in the East the first 2 years, and then when Rose got hurt, Rose misses most of the next 2 seasons. They still make the playoffs both of those years, and they actually win a playoff series that first year. That
they should not have won.
Right, then that was the year where like Luol Deng was out because he almost died from viral meningitis, and then Joakim Noah was basically playing on one foot. Like Tibbs, I mean, I understand why Tibbs burns out in places because he is just really difficult to work with a lot of times, and he doesn't like to listen to feedback. But he's a good coach. And the Knicks, when you're the Knicks, you have not been competent or relevant or good at all, basically, since that 1 year in 2013 when they won 54 games. That was the last time they were any good. But so you need somebody to come in who's going to just be like, have a baseline of competence. And that's what Tibbs is going to give you.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to set a standard for the whole organization. And I'm glad. And it's another thing that probably failed him in Minnesota was him being in charge of personnel. Like that's another thing is that like, he had a big say in personnel and with the Knicks, he's not going to do that. And they've hired a lot of good people. Like, I mean, it's not just Leon Rose or William Wesley. Like they have hired Walt Perrin, one of the best, most respected executives in the league from Utah. They also hired Alex Klein, a scout from the Pelicans, who has a lot of respect too. So it's like they're doing the right things. And I think having Tibbs just be the basketball coach is a good thing. And also it's like, let's not get it twisted. Like NBA teams that win games play their stars a lot of minutes.
That's the other thing. Like, are you going to, as someone who covered the last couple of years of the Tibbs era in Chicago, like when you look at who are the guys that Tibbs played a lot of minutes, are you going to tell me that like Joakim Noah and Taj Gibson and Jimmy Butler are going to have a problem with playing a lot of minutes? Those guys would all play 48 minutes if they could. And on the other side of it, Derrick Rose, when he had his 2 knee surgeries and he was being really cautious and not coming back when he was immediately cleared, Tibbs always had his back. Tibbs always defended his decision to sit out until he was comfortable. Tibbs never tried to force him to come back. Other people in the organization did, but Tom always had his back.
Right, exactly. And so, I think the fact that Tibbs does not care about I think the notion that Tibbs doesn't care about his players is a Twitter fabrication that has been made to like, that they just will extrapolate off of like the one time when Jimmy Butler played 52 minutes in a game. Yeah. And it's like, that's who Tibbs is all the time. And it's just not true. And it's like when Tibbs was coaching like USA basketball, I remember talking to Damian Lillard about him. It's like, he's like, Tibbs is a real one. Like, he's he was like Dame fucks with Tibbs. Like, it's like a lot of people fuck with Tibbs.
Well, a lot of players do. Like, there's a reason. I'm going back to the Rose thing. Rose signed up to play with him in Minnesota
again.
And so, Taj Gibson is one of his guys. Like, obviously Jimmy loves him. Jimmy wanted out of Minnesota because he couldn't stand Towns or Wiggins, but he and Tibbs he was always one of Tibbs's guys. Like, there are guys who love him. And there are guys, I know there were guys who don't. Like, I know Pau Gasol hated him in Chicago, but like, there are guys who are really loyal to Tibbs. And there's a reason for that. One thing I will say is the Knicks still, like, their roster is terrible. Mm-hmm. Like, basically, Mitchell Robinson is the only guy I look at and say, okay, that's somebody who's definitely going to be a future player. I mean, I guess RJ Barrett probably, but like,
let's not cancel RJ. Let's not just say RJ Barrett's not going to be good yet.
But like Kevin Knox probably not good. Frank Ntilikina hasn't been good. This draft is also like not that great, and they're going to have a high pick. So
I feel like if they get the number 1 pick, I feel like Tibbs would want LaMelo.
I just want to see LaMelo go there and then LeVar basically try to act like Tibbs should be fired if he doesn't play him enough minutes.
And then to which Tibbs is going to be like, all right, play 50 or whatever.
Right. Tibbs is going to be like, okay, so you want him to play more minutes? Okay, here. I mean, that's the same thing that happened with Jimmy. Like, Jimmy used to be mad that he wasn't playing enough minutes as a rookie. And then his second year, Tom played him like 48 minutes in a preseason game against Orlando. Like, Like that's how Tom operates. Also, like, Tibbs does not know who LeVar Ball is. I guarantee you.
Yeah, no, he probably does not. But now he knows who Lonzo Ball is, at least. I mean, as long as you've been in the NBA, I'm sure Tibbs has been watching film on you. So,
that's the thing. When I have covered the Bulls and he was the coach, It was always like whenever if you needed a quote from Tibbs, you ask him about his own team, he's useless because he just doesn't want to give away state secrets, which is dumb, but whatever. But if you ask him about like the 14th or 15th man on the other team's roster, he'll give you like the most detailed scouting report you've ever heard.
Oh yeah, I think I actually did use him for something about like Dame.
Yeah,
like one time, and he was just like, "Oh, just phenomenal." And the Tibbs voice like, "Great player, great shooter, great off the dribble, great leader, just all around great player." I mean, you can't say enough about it. Like
it's gonna be so powerful. Tibbs with New York media is gonna be so powerful.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the Tibbs-isms. Welcome back, Tibbs.
Yeah, the Knicks are not in the bubble, but their vibes are strong.
Vibes are strong, much stronger than the Warriors right
now. Yeah, that's kind of a good spot to wrap it, or
I think it's no, I don't have anything else. Follow my newsletter and subscribe to it, blazerbanter.substack.com, and you
podcast
read
too.
My stuff about the podcast, Blazer Banter podcast, and my regular USA Today work at LeBronWire.usatoday.com for Lakers and LeBron stuff.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Highkin. You can follow, the show is available on Apple, Google, Spotify, everywhere else. I've had some stuff on Bleacher Report. I have a piece on Dame that went up a few days ago, and then I wrote a column reacting to Tibbs. So, both of those are linked kind of on my Twitter. You can go check those out. Make sure you subscribe to the show on Patreon if you haven't yet. You can go to patreon.com/BullsVBlazers, which is the same as our Twitter and Instagram handles, which you should also be following. $3 a month. You get twice as much content, an extra episode per week. This one that we're talking on right now is a free episode, but the one we do later in the week is going to be a Patreon-only episode. So if you want to hear that, make sure you go and sign up for the Patreon. We've gotten some friends who subscribe. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Doof. Shout out to Kelly Dwyer, one of the blogging OGs. A couple of others names escape me at the moment, but shout
out to Kenton. Shout out to Kenton.
Yeah.
Shout out to everybody who subscribed to the show. We really do appreciate it. And especially the Patreon folks.
If you want to email us, bullsvsblazerspod@gmail.com. If you have questions, if you have anything you want us to talk about, just, shoot us an email.
If you have a vibe check that you want us to talk about, let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know. And, we totally forgot to mention in this entire episode that the NBA is actually back on Thursday.
It is back on Thursday. It's going to be like, I think we're all just we're all still so like disoriented by this whole, it's been 4 months, but just the idea that this is actually going to happen, even though we've had scrimmages for a week now, like it still just feels weird. But yeah, NBA is back on Thursday. The next time we record, I don't know exactly which day, but it'll probably be after the first few days of games. So be on the lookout for that. And we'll be back with you guys. If you're only on the free feed, we'll be back with you next week. If you're on the Patreon feed, we'll have an episode for you later this week. So thanks for listening.